We are back, not to the future, but to the present,
Or
right
to the
now. Right? There is no past. Time is a flat circle. But on this show, we are talking about time travel movies one last time, looking back at what we've been talking about, bringing in some great community members. This should be a great way to sort of wrap up everything we've been talking about. Greg, how you doing tonight, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm excited because we're talking about some of these time travel. I remember after our last show, I sent you that clip of John Mulaney's comedy, and that whole intro right there was like when they're doing the pitch for
pitching Back to the Future.
They're like, we go to the back, we go to the past, so we call it Back to the Past. No, we're gonna call it Back to the Future, but we're going to the past, and that's that little thing you just did that reminded me of that. So I'm doing great. I look forward to Saturday nights, have some drink, get to come out and just have fun talking movies with you, man.
Did you have any weddings this weekend? No officiating?
No,
or?
I'm done. My wedding season is off for right now. I hope so. So I won't get. I'm hoping I won't get hit up until the spring. So I'm good.
Fingers crossed for you. So we got two guests in this community that we're going to bring in. So I'm going to introduce our guests for tonight. They both hit me up independently saying time travel movies, this is a great thing. We're super, super into it. So I'd like to welcome in a friend of mine I've done a ton of shows with. This is DS Comics. DS, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Dude, I freaking love time travel. And I've been talking to you about time travel movies, John, before you guys did this series even. I think one of our first conversations when we met was about time travel movies and other stuff like that. So
I think I had posted
both of those on replays that you guys did. And I freaking love time travel. Like outside of comics, like quantum physics and time travel is like a second hobby that I just love, and I watch every time travel movie I can find, and I just love it. So I'm so happy to be on here. It's awesome.
So you're the reason this topic got brought up, because John just randomly texted me. I was like, hey, what about time travel? We had a list of 30 topics that we were choosing from, and he goes, what about time travel? I'm like, let's do it.
I'll take credit for it.
It's all your fault.
All my idea.
That's a good fault. So
all right. You're welcome.
If you guys don't know DS, his channel, I linked it down below. He's also on the Comic Core on Tuesdays for the Golden Guys. He is an epic Golden Age collector. He's also been on Comic Gories a ton, competing with some epic books. I even had him hold one up earlier that I was like, every time I see it, I'm always going to be thinking of DS because it's just, those Golden Age books, the artwork is on another level.
Appreciate the kind words, John.
We also have another friend who I've never done a live show with, who was talking to me a ton about his love for time travel movies. We got Chris from Lost in Comics. How you doing, Chris?
I am doing great, John. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm getting a little fuzz here, but yeah, man, I'm excited to be with you guys. It's my first show with you, John. I've been with Bearded before, but he beat me in a competition, so I don't look at it too fondly. Being on a live stream with him, but
chaos feels the same way.
This is now our live stream that we get to be on, where there's no competition here. Yeah. You can tell me I'm wrong on stuff, and people will agree with you in the chat probably, and it's okay. So there's no winners or losers. Unless you're John and you say that Ace Ventura is a football
people
movie,
tell me I'm wrong. Plenty of times I'm told I'm wrong on this show. So for sure.
So yeah, we're not competing. We're good. You're fine.
Well, before we check in
I'm
with the chat, I was gonna say, what's everybody drinking? Chris, what are you drinking tonight?
I just poured myself a shot of Evan Williams Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Ooh.
So got a little whiskey action going here.
Nice.
And got a little Michelob to wash it down with.
A little chaser. There you go. All right.
Chaser, yeah.
Hey, DS, how you doing, man? What are you drinking tonight, man?
Well, I would go back in time to when I was younger. I'd be drinking exactly what Chris is, but the older DS drinks diet caffeine free because it's late at night, and I'm old, so this is my late night drink.
You know what that makes me think of is a time travel book by Stephen King, the one when it's like the one about the Kennedy assassination. He's trying to stop the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
And his obsession with the way root beer tastes when he travels back in the past, when it was the official recipe of root beer and how it's been ruined over the years. And anytime I see root beer now, I think of that movie and that.
Amazon did a series based on that book.
Isn't it? What's his name?
It's like he's in a lot of James.
Yeah, Pineapple Express guy. I can't remember his name.
James Franco.
James Franco. Yeah.
Yeah. So that maybe see now it's all connecting in a time travel.
Right. Yeah.
And Greg, what are you drinking tonight, man?
I'm doing the reverse order of Chris. I got my beer, and then I'll finish it if I need be with a little bourbon. But I've got a Flying Dog. It is a blood orange ale. So, as always, I have to start with the beer because if I do the bourbon, it runs out too quick on the show, and then it just makes for a long night. It's already a late night, so then if it's too much bourbon, you don't want to do that. So
you can fall asleep on me if you get. See, I can't drink the beer so much anymore. I'll fall asleep in a shot. So I'm doing a little cocktail tonight. I like a good rum and coke with a little lime juice in there, Cuba Libre. So this will jack me up. I usually don't drink that much caffeine. So let's say hello to
the designated driver in this show tonight. Then
you take the wheel. Todd Christian was tailgating. Thanks for hanging out there early for me, brother. And TJ sent me a message before we went live saying, man, I was really looking forward to watching something. I couldn't find anything. And then your notification went off. So thank you for clicking the notification bell, TJ. Perry, the horror watching fiend, who, if you haven't seen lately, he watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He watched Host. He posted something today. I can't remember what it was because I haven't watched that one yet, but he's been watching some super duper scary movies, and it's been hilarious for me because I've seen them all. And watching his reaction, seeing him for the jumping at all those, he's got moments when he legitimately is telling the camera, "I can't look. I'm looking away." It's hilarious. Hello to Kevin 12 Comic Talk. Thanks for coming by. My Wednesday homie Bear Island Comics is here. Thank you. Saladal Fatima is here. Good to see you. I love that picture, by the way. Beautiful picture. He just says, "Oh my God, I thought Chris was Rob Worst in casual clothes." No way. He's better. He's classier than that Rob Worst. Come on now. We got Glitter and Duct Tape. Thank you so much for coming by. She sent us a very nice little holiday card the other day for the girls. Really sweet of her. Hey, and there's Chris as well. And I forgot to mention, I linked his channel down below. You can listen to him and Oscar talk every week. They know their comics. It's awesome seeing them discuss new books and everything that they picked up. Hey, and there's DS as well. He's got his logo. Look, there it is twice. Werewolf by lunchtime. Good day, mate. Good to see you. Carlito Classico is excited because he knows that I teased him with the announcement we're going to have at tonight, the end of tonight's show, about what we are going to be talking about for the month of October, because we're moving away from time travel after tonight, and I'll let you guys all know what we're going to be talking about.
He's got the teaser. Don't spoil it.
Don't give it away now.
That's a trust, Carlito.
Hello, Todd Christian says the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween. They are great Halloween movies. Absolutely. But we decided to eschew horror and go a different direction this month. NC Slapjacks, hello. Watching The Summer of '84. Ooh, sounds like it. I don't know if I remember that movie. So thank you all for coming by. We are here to wrap up time travel movies, and I'm just going to start off with a general question, and we're gonna start with Chris and go around the wheel. Chris, what is it about time travel movies that you think people latch onto, or what is it that you've latched onto for time travel movies? Oh no, he dropped out.
That was great points, Chris. I agree with them all.
That means it's DS's turn. So DS.
I'll go. All right. So there's a couple things about time travel movies that grab me. One is probably everybody feels the same about it, is that what if you could go back in time? Everybody has those things. Oh, if only I could have done it this way, or if only I could do this, or man, if I could go back in time. So you get to live out that sort of dream and that fantasy that everybody has by watching it done in a piece of art by artists putting together a piece in cinema, that you can sort of vicariously experience that fantasy in the story that they've written for you. Because everybody always wishes they could go back and do something different. And so it's the going back in time part is sort of the fantasy everyone has. And then going forward in the future is the same type of thing. Like, I wish I could see what things would be like in the future, or, you know, I never thought my future would be like this, or you think about what you want to be when you're a kid. So it's that kind of fantasy on both sides of it that grabs me. Plus, it's just the paradoxes of time travel are just so cool. Whenever I go into a time travel movie, I'm expecting it to have the classic paradoxes, the classic loop, the full circle. And I'm not expecting anything different, and it's not for a lack of creativity. They're all sort of have a lot of similar concepts in that regard, with the closed loop at the end and the paradoxes that get the characters in trouble. But it's how well is it done? How artfully is it done? And I particularly like the ones, I mean, I love special effects. That makes blockbusters. But you can do a fantastic time travel movie with no special effects, just with cutting and editing and acting. And you can do a killer time travel movie just on that. So it's just a very interesting piece of cinematic art on a very interesting topic. And yeah, it's something so strange and avant-garde and bizarre and just mind-bending that it's just so much fun to be in. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, you mentioned like low budget time. There's some great low budget time travel movies. I mean, Prime. What's that? Oh my gosh, was it? Now I forgot it. Primer. Yeah, I almost said Primal. Primer is a really great example. And then Greg got me to watch Safety Not Guaranteed, which again is like almost no special effects till the last 5 minutes. I mean, it's really nothing. And I think it's, like you're saying, there's definitely more of that wish fulfillment, right, going on there. Chris, what is it about time travel movies for you?
I just keep going back in time, John. That's why I keep getting thrown off the internet here. But it's kind of what DS said, man. It's like that question that all of us, kind of ask ourselves throughout our life. Like, man, what if? What if I could go back and do this? What if I could have changed this when I was, 18? What if I could be a kid again? And you got movies that you go back and, I mean, even like a Disney movie, like with 17. Is it 17 again? Is that the one with
Jennifer Garner?
No, that's 17 again. Zac Efron. Jennifer Garner, 13 going on 30.
That one, yeah. So there's two examples there, but I mean, again, this that question that you always want the answer to that, right? Like, I wish I could go back in time, and then you get to watch these movies, and you, like DS said, man, you get to have that played out, and that's awesome, man. You get that feeling of, man, you can relate to something like this. And I mean, then you got movies like the Avengers, where you go back and they actually get to change things in time. Just an awesome paradox, man. You got even I relate a lot to comics, right? So I think of Flashpoint a lot. Oh, yeah. Just all sorts of possibilities with time travel, and some people hate time travel. Some people are like on the opposite side. They're like, I have a friend of mine that he's like, I hate time travel movies. It's just too convoluted. There's just too many possibilities. You can screw things up, and there's so many questions about it. And for me, I'm like, I love it. I love the concept of time travel because, again, you get to answer that question of what if, that what if question. So I love it, man.
It's that moment in Austin Powers 2 when he's like going through all the paradoxes. Then he's, my eyes went crossed. Oh, I've given up. And then then Michael York looks at the camera and he's like, it's best if you don't concentrate on that too much.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's the fun of it. These movies, you can rewatch these and you see different layers. And it's the only type of movie, other than just a great movie that you like rewatching, it's the only type of movie that, when it's ironic, because when you've seen it once and you go back to watch it a second time, what's the future in the movie, and it enhances your view of what's going on in the present in the movie because you know what's coming, and it makes it sort of a newish type movie. So you can rewatch those and see them differently each time, and that's because it's a time travel movie. It's a very cool thing.
Especially if the director and writer have spent a lot of time crafting something that really is tightly wound. I think Oscar or Chris was talking a little bit about like the idea of that time travel movies each sort of have their own set of rules, and if they really operate well with those rules, I think it can be something that is something on a rewatch that you see all the little pieces, how they fit together.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you, Greg? I know you're the co-host of this show. Like, what is it about time travel movies that you appreciate?
See, mine is almost the opposite of why I'll either enjoy a time travel movie or I won't. Is almost the opposite of what DS was saying. Is because you get that idea of like, oh, you can go back in time and fix it, and we all have that reality of like, oh, I change these things, but like 95% of the dramas of time travel movies that do that, it doesn't work out the way they want it to, or they realize like that no, their life was better, and or like, does it really make it better by if you can go back? So like I like those movies because I'm like, okay, I don't need to go back in time. You know, I'd probably still mess up my life either way. So why not just deal with what I got now? Because I mean, I think it pulls out that idea that you're all going to make these decisions, right? Of like, oh, well, if I could go back and, you know, change how I interacted with this one girl, well, it would, you know, completely different here. But is that going to be a better life than what you're living? You know, so like you have those. And I think it's interesting to think the problem where I have a time travel that I brought up on the show is when it's just used there as a way to get out of a situation. When it's generically written or when it forces emotion. For me, like fake emotion, like if it's like, oh, they get the girl because he knows everything about what she likes now, and now I'm like, okay, that just seems creeper. Like,
Yeah.
So if it's a time travel movie that's done well, I'm all for. But I feel like if it's done poorly, I'm like, so that's why I'm more critical of it, because I think it hinges for me of I have more like good and bad off of that than like, okay.
It's for me though, time travel movies are like sex or pizza. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. You know what I mean? That's for me for time travel. But I totally get what you're saying. There are good ones and bad ones. But for me, even the bad ones are still better than most of the crap that's out there. So, but yeah, I totally hear what you're saying.
I always feel like the movies with it's like the Olympic sports with the greatest challenge. You're really looking like, wow, they really have to pull it off to get something amazing out of this. And I feel like for me, usually my favorite genres are the ones that are easiest to screw up. So like I like romantic comedy just because there are so few good ones, but when you hit on a good one, they're just freaking amazing. But there's so many schlocky, crappy ones. It's like versus action movies where I feel like they're all, you know, stuff's gonna blow up. I'm gonna enjoy the stuff blowing up. It's not hard to make a good action movie, but it's really hard for me, at least in my opinion, to make a good romantic comedy. And time travel is similar, you know, something like About Time. What I love about that movie is the lessons that the character learns, so that at the end, what he's really learning is that, like, I don't need to change things. I need to be able to remove the anxiety of life and live the day one more time for enjoying the little things, right? So he's like, live your day and then live it again to appreciate it, right? Like the first time he's going to court and he's all stressing out, and then the case goes his way and he's able to celebrate with his friend and appreciate it, right? It's like those little things. I like when the time travel lesson, and usually it's this way, but when the lesson is appreciate what you've got.
Right.
Yeah. So there's some other people jumping in the chat here. I want to say hello to Mr. Gretzky talking about Time Bandits, which definitely definitely have a love for that. TJ says the simplest change could really mess things up, right? Definitely agree with that. Watch out for that. Hello to Dudes Talking Comics. Mo is in the chat. Carlito mentioned, where is it? Sorry, I missed a bunch of stuff here. Carlito said Tenet. I have not seen Tenet yet. I have not gone back to the movie theaters as of yet, but I hear good things. Let's see here. Gore said classic Doctor Who is a favorite example of his as far as time travel. And I will say I'm a complete Doctor Who virgin. I've never watched any of it. So as a nerd category, I'm definitely out of the loop on that one.
That's one of the few fandoms that like I've not even dipped my toe into. And it's just, I feel like I'm just afraid to because of the overwhelmingness of it. I know at least enough knowledge about little aspects of, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan like you are, but I know enough about the concept, but I can't tell you enough about, Doctor Who. So I'm like, that's something I want to someday. So maybe I'll have to hit up Gore and find out where to.
I watched the old Doctor Who when I was younger. I would watch episodes here and there. And in total, I probably watched 15 episodes of the old Doctor Who. And it didn't really grab me, and I never watched it since. So probably the last time I ever watched one was probably, I don't know, 25 years ago or something. So yeah, it didn't grab me, but it's definitely got that fandom like Star Wars or Star Trek, and I totally get it because I've seen it, and it's super cool. It's just not my type of super cool, but I totally see that it is like that. But it's definitely, it's all about time travel. Yeah.
I wanted to click on Mr. Gretzky mentioned a movie called Clock Stoppers that's directed by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek. And Not an amazing movie by any stretch, but the guys who wrote it are my mom's neighbor. So I got to go to the set and hang out. Like, they were really nice guys, and I got to meet Jonathan Frakes. He's super nice. So Clock Stoppers has like a special place for me. So I'm pumped that somebody mentioned that.
He is super nice. I met him at a con one time. I was using the urinal next to him, and he was very nice.
Was he going number one?
Yes, him in the urinal. I would hope he was. Do you know how they work? Have you been in quarantine that long?
I had to make the joke. Come on.
But I think it was super nice to me because I wasn't a huge Star Trek guy. So I was just like, I knew who he was. Like, oh, hey, like, that's cool. Like, I can tell my friends that I went to the restroom by you, and people don't be jealous. And he's like, they will.
But what about when time travel goes wrong, like Groundhog Day, over and over, repeating the, I mean, how would you guys feel about that? Because me personally, every time I watch the movie, I think, man, I would love to be able to go back in time, but man, to live the same day over and over, yeah, that might
being stuck in a time loop, right?
Yeah.
I think I would enjoy that. It's dependent on the length of the loop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Groundhog Day, not so much. Maybe Groundhog Decade, I'm down.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bill Murray, he's completely frustrated and gives up. But after, I think somebody wrote how many he supposedly did, 490 or 5,000 or some amount of times. It's out there if you look on the internets. But after a while, he got into it and he used it. He became a skilled pianist, and he learned everything about everybody in town. And he came to love that day over and over. And he found how to find joy in the day. And the lesson from that movie for me was, you can find, he lived the same day over and over. And on sometimes that same day that was miserable became a day that was wonderful. And it's just how you approach the day. But yeah, a time loop of a day, I'd be pretty miserable for a while. I don't know. I would like longer. A decade would be awesome. I'd relive decade. That would be cool.
Yeah. Which is so funny, Chris, that you brought that up, because I told John that I watched a movie today that is basically in that realm. Have you guys seen Palm Springs?
No.
Yes. Oh, DS, you got to see this. If you're
time travel,
it's on Hulu. So I know it's on Hulu and not like, because I always tell John, I'm like, oh, it's on Hulu, and I forget I have the cable Hulu, and he's like, no, it's not.
This is actually on Hulu. Yeah,
it's because it's a Hulu movie. It was made by Hulu. But I watched it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But it's that same concept, but it takes it kind of a next step, because I feel like I couldn't do the Groundhog's Day version of their day, but I could do Palm Springs version of their day a little bit better. And I don't want to give anything away, but because of stuff that you find out like within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I see that just came out this year, so I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah,
it's got J.K. Simmons from Spider-Man. It's got the lead actors from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Saturday Night Live. Sandberg, yeah. Yep. Very funny.
The female lead is the mom in How I Met Your Mother, the last season and a half of that, and she's in some other stuff I forget too.
Very funny though.
Yeah, it really is. And what I liked about it too, I was hesitant. I like Andy Samberg, but Andy Samberg can be too much of Andy Samberg sometimes. And I thought he did a very fantastic job in this role of being enough, but not over the top. It's kind of like finding that sweet spot. Like that sometimes Adam Sandler struggles, like when you can find that like balance of like, okay, where is that like sweet spot for him where it's not too much, it's not over the top, where Adams is always over the top, which is perfect.
Well, I mean, my wife and I were right in the midst of enjoying Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the very first time, which is also on Hulu. And at some point we spotted that and we jumped. It was like I was Adam Sandberg.
I'll have to find somewhere to watch it, because me and Hulu are not on speaking terms right now, because every time I try to watch Hulu, they have those commercial breaks and it just crashes my TV. And I have to go out and go back in, and it's like the commercial comes on and it goes blank, and then my TV crashes. And I have to go back out and go back in, and it gets me to resume. Like, I feel like I'm in a time loop because I have to do it like 2 minutes before where I stopped. So I keep having to rewatch 2 minutes every time it's commercial break.
Carlito saying it's also on Shudder.
I will check it out.
You guys will have to watch it and shoot us a message. Let me know what you guys think then, because you guys.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch that because I
Yeah, I
try
wanna
to
see
watch
it.
everything time travel related that I can find.
So I mean, you know, if you consider Groundhog's Day time travel-esque, at least,
Yeah, definitely.
then you will. I know
Yeah.
some that kind of comes up sometimes of like, well, you're stuck in a day. Is it really time travel? And we've kind of went from the mindset if, you know, which led us into the kind of cryo freeze a little bit. Sometimes if you start in a certain time and you kind of end up in a different time somehow, you're time traveling to some degree, whether it's legit time travel or not. But that's kind of where we fell with Groundhog.
This is what TJ says. I don't fall asleep and wake up in a different time and have myself time traveled. I just went to bed.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, if you do while others don't, that's a different concept for me. So
I'm a huge Quantum Leap fan, so I love the fact that the chat is bringing up Quantum Leap. I saw several people mentioning how much they love Quantum Leap. So shout out to all you all, because as like a high schooler, I was like jamming on Quantum Leap was like it was that and Magnum PI. Like I was digging it all.
Yeah, Quantum Leap was fun. I watched that when I was younger.
So DS, and as someone who is a time travel fan, do you, and Chris, this will go for you too, do you guys fall into the realm of watching like time travel TV shows as well? Like Quantum Leap. I know 12 Monkeys had a TV show off of it for.
I'm watching Outlander right now. That's a time
frequency.
travel.
You know, Stargate technically that could have been a time travel movie, and or it could have not. You know, So, what do you guys watch TV shows as well, or just the movies?
TV shows, yeah. Go ahead, DS. I'll go ahead.
I mean, I don't really like time travel TV shows as much. I'll give them a shot, but 90% of the time they're not my thing. It feels like it needs more time for the artists, the writers, the directors, the actors to flesh it out into a work. When you're doing it a weekly thing or something, it doesn't have the same complexity, even though they're fun, but they're not, I don't consider them a higher level. Now, some of them are, Umbrella Academy. That's a killer show. I love
Season 2, yeah.
Yeah. And that one we were talking about with James Franco, I thought that was really good too. But, Quantum Leap, I liked it and I watched it, but it wasn't that great, but it was fun. So, like I said, even bad time travel for me is good, but the TV shows mainly fall a little flat for me. And when it's based on a movie like 12 Monkeys, man, that's one of my favorite time travel movies. I don't need to go watch the TV show. I've tried to watch it and I just can't get into it. And it's just, for me, that's the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I'm not mainly into the shows, but mostly the movies.
Are there any shows that are your jam, Chris?
Did you guys ever watch Timeless on NBC? Did you ever hear about that show? Okay.
No.
So
this
was a show that came out, it must have been about maybe 3-4 years ago on NBC, and I know it didn't do very well, but it was, I really love the concept, and it reminds me a lot of Umbrella Academy, but basically this team, it's like a special, like a government agency, kind of like the Department of Truth type of thing, but like a kind of not official government. They're creating this team to go back in time to find. There's a what do you call it, man? I'm sorry, I'm kind of mixing up my story here, but there's a team called Rittenhouse, right? And they're kind of like the Illuminati type of. They're like an Illuminati type of organization. And that Illuminati organization is going back in time and trying to alter parts of history for the United States, so that this Illuminati group can kind of take over, can control the U.S. in the future. So this government agency is sending a team to go back in time to stop this group in all these different places in history. And the fun part of the show is the actual history of it, because they go back at certain points in history, like the Lincoln assassination, John F. Kennedy assassination, and they go back and actually, you see they really did a really good job of reenacting those situations. And then, like I said, those two teams trying to alter time, and there's a whole underlying story. There's romance in there, comedy, but it's really, very well done.
I'll have to look for this one.
Yeah, there was a
How
whole.
how long did it last?
I believe it was 2 seasons, and then there's a really rabid fan base for it. And there was a thing on Twitter that was like a hashtag Save Timeless. They even had it at Times Square, Save Timeless. So they released an extra season of it, and it was a very short season. But yeah, great. I mean, I really enjoyed that show. My wife and I really got down with that. So
the chat was throwing out a couple of shows like Sliders and Lost. Hey, the 5th season of Lost is a time travel season, like no doubt. Like they definitely. I mean, before that, not so much, but they definitely get there over the course of the show.
So we're gonna spend the next 40 minutes just talking about Lost. So.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna fight the urge. In fact, I'm gonna dive right into something that Bearded brought up a second ago, which is the debate over. Oh, Daybreak. I remember that show.
That was a killer TV show series that I watched years ago, time travel. I don't think anybody ever watched it. It wasn't popular. Killer show. I love it. It was really
I definitely watched it. Yeah.
Awesome.
But I wanted to bring up cryo. The idea of cryogenically freezing and waking up in another time in some way. What are your views on that as a time travel topic, or what are some of your favorite examples? We'll go with Chris first this time. Hopefully, stay stable.
Yeah. No, I'm good. So we're talking like Captain America type of gets frozen.
Captain America is definitely an example. Yeah.
So I mean, I consider that time travel because when he went into his cryostasis, he wakes up and he's in a different time. So he's time traveling. He doesn't know what happened during that time. So I definitely consider that a time travel movie. That's of course one of my favorites. We could go with Encino Man. That's a good one. Encino Man. That's a fun comedy. Same type of deal. I guess that would probably be one of my favorites. We're talking about that type of movie.
I mean, Encino Man. People who hate on Pauly Shore need to go back and rewatch Encino Man because that movie's great. I love Encino Man.
It is. I mean, of course, Pauly Shore. I mean, it's like everything else. When you get too much of something, right, it's not a good thing. But at the time, it was a great thing. Man, Pauly Shore was awesome, man.
Yeah,
so, that'd be my
son-in-law and be happy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's the best. He's one of my favorite parts on Goofy movies. So
yeah. Yeah.
What about you, DS? How do you feel about cryo as time travel, or what are some of your favorites in that genre?
I think it counts as time travel because you got to think of it from the perspective of the person who's frozen. How are they traveling through time? I mean, are they traveling to the future through a wormhole? Are they traveling through the future just at regular pace of time? Or are they traveling through the future because they've been frozen and they wake up and to them it's an instant later? I don't really care the method of them getting to the future. It doesn't have to be a wormhole or some fancy machine. It can be frozen and you wake up. To you, it's instantaneous. That's what counts. It's time travel for that person. It may not be for everyone else. I mentioned this to John. One of my favorite cryo time travel movies, a very touching movie and very well done, is Forever Young with Mel Gibson. That is a top notch of the cryo time travel.
Yeah.
And since we're all into comics too, obviously Captain America. That's he time traveled. One, I think you guys mentioned this. To me, it's a cryo one, Idiocracy, because they're supposed to be woken up like in a year or something, but everything goes to hell and the place gets trashed, and it's like 500 years later or something like that. That's cryo. And then there's Demolition Man? Is that the one?
Yeah,
one of the best, man. Wesley Snipes in that is
so good at that.
That's probably my favorite cryo time travel movie right there. So yeah, I think it definitely counts. It doesn't matter how the character travels through time instantaneously, but to them, it's the same as stepping into a box, stepping into a phone.
People breaking it down by it's time displaced, and then people saying that Groundhog Day is time stuck, not time travel. But we're splitting hairs either way. It's all part of the same.
All in the same ball wax. I even put alternate universes like +1. If you guys have ever seen +1, is that time travel? There's like this quirk that generates this crowd of. There's a bunch of kids at a party, and this quirk in the universe generates a second set of those kids at the party that's like 2 minutes behind them, following the same timeline, and they're interacting with them, and they're scared. Is that time travel? None of the individuals have actually time traveled, but I think it's a time travel movie.
Well, and it's a big part of Back to the Future, that idea of going back and changing the past, and now you're in a different future. The parallel dimensions of, once you allow for time travel, science would say that you have to allow for alternative dimensions, and now it's all part of the same ball of wax, right?
So since we have
Greg, I know Greg's been wanting to talk cryo for a little while.
Well, so we're talking cryo. We've got the time travel experts on our panel right now. Can you guys tell me what you do with the 3 seashells? How do you use them?
That's a great Demolition Man throwback joke. Come on.
I don't remember the reference.
When he goes into the bathroom, when Sylvester Stallone goes into the bathroom, and he's like, "There's just
there's no toilet paper,"
and they're like making fun of him, like, "You don't know how to use the shells."
I love that.
So.
And yeah, we did mention Donnie Darko because we did talk about some unusual kind of dark future time loop kind of situations. For me, I love a good cryo freeze movie, and I think DS hit a bunch of them. I think Chris hit a bunch. I mean, I'll happily do Encino Man, Demolition Man, Idiocracy. Those are Austin Powers was thrown out by the chat. I still enjoy the Austin Powers movies. I know that they're super cheesy, but I don't have to watch them all like in one big go. I can split them up and watch them and enjoy them. So I like a good cryo freeze.
Well, I think it's fun because you get the fish out of water scenario, and like that can be fun, right? Of what would it be like, especially in a world of we're Demolition Man, right? Sylvester Stallone is, I'm gonna hunt you down with my guns. I'm gonna just wreak havoc on you. And then and that's all he knows. And then he gets into this new, like, hey, we're going to hug people and put them in jail. And he's like, what do I do? Like, no, just shoot people. And that's where Wesley Snipes just thrives in that movie because of that. And so that's always fun. And I think it's all about how you set it up, right? Like John and I have talked on the show a lot of a movie. Like if you set it up of here's where you have this kind of here's the line. Where's the believability at? There usually is an endpoint where you go, okay, I can't go past.
Yeah.
So I think if they set it up well and they stick to it, it makes it fun. So yeah, cryo. I enjoy a good cryo movie.
And I think there's a lot of discussion in the chat of what are certain superhero movies as time travel movies. I think there's some great comments going on.
Question for you then, John, as someone who likes, we haven't talked about it, romantic comedy. What about Kate and Leopold?
Ooh.
I think Kate. So, I mean, I'm super pumped. DS mentioned Forever Young with Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
I think Forever Young is the better version of a similar kind of story. For me, the problem with Kate and Leopold is on retrospect, that movie has a lot of question marks for me because she's clearly been sleeping with Liv Schreiber, who is like her ancestor, later on. There's a genetic relationship between Meg Ryan and Liv Schreiber in that movie because she decides to go back in time and be with Hugh Jackman because, let's face facts, who wouldn't? And she goes back there to live with him and then is his great ancestor in some way. Super awkward in retrospect.
Well,
that movie for me doesn't hold.
Like Back to the Future, so I know you like those awkward
Sure.
family dynamic,
yeah, all that stuff is great.
So you don't like Back to the Future, Bearded?
So what I said last show is I'm fine with it. I like to knock on it more than I really probably do. I think it's overhyped, and I wasn't in the right genre for it. I wasn't in the right. I saw it when I was later on as a kid, so it didn't have the same notes for me, but it's fine. But there's definitely moments where it's like,
yeah, but see, that's the pizza of the time travel movies because it's done in such a charming way where you have, in the first one, you have the 50s and you have the 80s and you see the cool stuff from the 80s. He's just walking around with his vest on and people think he's in the Coast Guard. They didn't have that in the 50s. That's cool. Yeah. And then the kid who's the working at the little store ends up being the mayor and he meets him when he's young. There's just so many cool little charming things about it. It's not heavy duty. It's not intellectual. It's just super fun and cool. And it's just so fun to see Marty McFly running around, and the principle's the same, and he isn't changed no matter what. And then when you go into the sequel and the third one, it's the same actors playing their ancestors and the same. It's just got a cool, charming effect to it, but it's not a heavy duty.
It's all the same actors unless you're Crispin Glover.
He got hosed in that third film for sure.
Oh yeah,
One. It was the second one.
He's not even in the second one? I don't remember.
No.
So the second one is where they basically got an actor and used his likeness. Like they basically did up the guy's makeup to make him look.
The third film, he's not even in the third film.
Well, because there was the contract disputes because of the stuff.
Gotcha.
Like if you look up, like man, he got hosed, and I don't know everything about it.
Hey, Eric Stoltz lost out on Marty McFly, so there's a lot of casting drama going on there.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention, Mo mentioned Interstellar. I wanted to spend a second maybe on discussing, is this a time travel movie? Because now we're getting into the science of outer space travel and the idea that going to one place time might appear differently to the person traveling than the person waiting behind. DS, what are your thoughts on that as a time travel movie?
Well, the Interstellar, most of these movies that have been coming out, like Gravity, the sci-fi type movies, or Alien Covenant, or Prometheus, some of these heavy-duty, big budget sci-fi movies, they're awesome, but they rarely are correct with physics. But Interstellar nailed it. I mean, they nailed it. And look, there's two things in our physical world that affect the movement of time, and it can go quicker or slower with regard to two different entities, and it's affected by how fast you're moving and how much you're affected by gravity. And in that one, they used the gravity because the closer they got to the black hole, the more gravity they experienced, the faster time would go for them relative to Earth. And the one part on that's definitely time travel is when they go down to the planet, they're only down there for like an hour, and then they go back up. And the black guy on the ship, he's been waiting for them for like 20 years or something. Yeah. And it's like, man, that was like mind blown. And it was done so well and so realistically. And it was just, it is time travel because time moved differently on the planet, which was closer to the black hole, than the spaceship, which was just a little further from the black hole. So time traveled slower for them than it did on the ship. And it was just the clashing of the two time movements at that point was mind-bending, and I think it was well done. I think it counts as time travel. I don't need it to be a time machine. I just need the characters to feel that they've moved through time at a wrong pace and they've arrived at the future
as opposed to everybody else in the story. Yeah. For sure. What about you, Chris? What are your feelings on Interstellar in that movie?
I have to be completely honest, guys. I have not seen Interstellar. Man, I
don't want to ruin the ending. I don't want to talk about the ending.
Oh, I don't. Oh, John, you'll have to boot him. I can't boot him from the stream. You'll have to.
I'll boot myself, guys.
I removed Greg. Oh no.
Yeah, so I don't. Well, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. But the end of the movie would be something else I would address here, but I won't. But that one part was time travel. But of course, if those who have seen it know what's coming. So
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I really do appreciate what Nolan tried to do with that film. The same way the directors of The Martian, the amount of time that went into the science of what they're doing in their space travel, I think it pays off for their audience. Sorry, Chris, you wanted to say something?
No. I just, I guess I didn't realize, because I've always heard about the wormhole deal with Interstellar, but I guess I didn't realize that it was kind of on the same vein of a time travel movie.
Yeah, I mean, it plays with the science of a black hole and the idea that the intense gravity there would mean that the person there moves differently in time than those that are still back on Earth. And I remember a film that talked about the astronaut who might go to the far ends of the galaxy traveling the speed of light and then coming home and having everyone they knew now much older, and they are still near to the same age. They haven't aged the same way, and the life experience difference that would happen. And ultimately, Interstellar plays with that concept.
Yeah, and
Alien did it too when Sigourney Weaver woke up from her cryo freeze in Aliens and found out her child had grown and matured past her.
Yeah, they've done studies on astronauts during the space shuttle program where they have figured a way to measure the aging process. And they have determined that because the space shuttle is traveling so fast compared to the people who are stationary on Earth, that they have actually aged slower slightly by like thousandths of a second less than the people on Earth. And also GPS satellites, they have to account for a time differential because GPS satellites are traveling so fast in orbit that their clocks are actually running slower than our clocks are here so that they will keep up. Otherwise, everything will be off. You'd think you're making a left turn and it's really, 1,000 feet down the road. So they actually have to adjust the clocks on GPS satellites to match because of the speed those satellites are moving at. And they did that well on Interstellar. I think it was 100% realistic on that point. Now, at the end of the movie, there's a whole other time travel, mind-blown scenario we won't get into because Chris hasn't seen it. But yeah, Interstellar, 100% wheelhouse time travel movie.
DS, can I just I'm just going to shoot you like messages after I watch a movie and I'm like, man, I don't get this aspect of time travel. I'm like, DS, explain this to me like you did on the show because, like Carlito said.
I'll try. I mean, I've been studying. Look, I'm not I don't have a PhD or anything in this stuff, but I've been studying physics and quantum physics and time travel on just studying as a hobby for decades and watching time travel movies too. So I know more than the average person, but I'm far from an expert. But I just really enjoy the whole genre, and so I know a little bit more than maybe the average person walking down the street, which really enhances my enjoyment of the time travel movies.
Yeah, but that's
or when it's done.
I don't want a professor or a scientist to explain it to me. Like, I want someone who's a geek and a nerd who likes comics and things like that with me, who can be like, hey, I know a little bit more about this topic. Here, let me explain it to you.
That's what's frustrating when I go on Wikipedia or somewhere to research this stuff. It's all PhDs writing these long math equations. I can't freaking understand that. I need somebody to you got to slog through that stuff for a long time and you can't figure it out. So
we got a time traveler in the chat.
If you don't have a degree in it.
Werewolf is already in
Sunday where I'm at. So
in about 10 minutes, then Bearded's going to join you.
Yeah, me too.
So Chris, I want to get into some of your all-time favorite. What are some time travel movies that are your personal favorites?
Well, I mean, since Bearded, dogged Back to the Future, man. That's the definitive time travel movie. I mean, I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but that's the first. I think a lot of time travel based movies. I mean, obviously, right? It's kind of light, it's got a lot of good moments, like DS was saying. A lot of sweet moments, a lot of family oriented things, and you see the same principles, same characters. Jennifer Parker, right? She changed we're talking about actresses or people that were
girlfriend
different.
Changed, yeah.
Girlfriend changed. That as a kid, I remember watching Back to the Future, and it just blew my mind. Just the idea, that concept of time travel, and watching Back to the Future, and I put myself into that movie, right? So that's there's a lot of nostalgia there. So obviously that's gonna be my go-to favorite time travel movie. And then you got everything else we've gone over here, everything that stems out of that. You got we're talking about Interstellar, and I was looking at that movie. It's Matthew McConaughey, right, in that movie.
Yeah.
What's the movie that he what is it? No, that's not. I'm thinking of Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, because I'm thinking of when right?
He's in that one, yeah, with Jennifer Garner.
Ghost of Girlfriends Past. I'm thinking, but they literally take him into the past, right? The ghost takes him into the past. He kind of sees himself in the 80s. That's another fun one, another kind of comedy / romantic comedy. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's my attraction to it, is that feel good. Again, like we said at the top of the show, like what if I could, what if I would have gone down this road? What if I would have gone down this road? And these movies.
You're righting a lot of it centers around righting a wrong, right? Something that was wrong, that shouldn't have been, that you can have a chance to correct in some way.
And yeah, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. I think of that one. I like how he goes in there and he's getting to see himself, as his age now, seeing himself as a young person. And I think about that, like, man, how cool would that be, just to be able to go see yourself and be like, and let me draw some knowledge from how I was as a young person, apply that now, you know.
And the flip of that was the Bruce Willis movie, The Kid, when the young kid travels to the future to be with Bruce Willis and see what he'll become. And then spends a time with him to realize, like, no, I'm not here to fix you. You're here to help me. And those little like changes that happen when you get to appreciate the person you were and the person you hope to become one day. Right.
Right.
Same for Scrooge, you know, like Scrooge. That's one of the reasons. That's one of my favorite Christmas movies. You know.
Well, I read. If you've never read it, I'm a big fan of Dickens. If you've never read A Christmas Carol, his book, it's not terribly long, and I've read it almost every Christmas the last few years. It's an amazing read. Well, and it's totally time travel. I mean, he basically gets to go back to his past, to go travel across present and see other people where they are now, and then look at his future, what it might be. Talk about ahead of its time.
Yeah, well, I have PTSD when it comes to Dickens because I was forced to read Great Expectations. That was my first foray into Dickens was Great Expectations, and oh God, I have PTSD. I can't go back to Dickens after reading that because it's like an ongoing, never-ending. Just it's not for me. I don't know if it's one of his longer works, but it's like it just goes on forever.
That one's a tough read, I will say.
Yes.
So you're saying that was the worst of times, not the.
He got paid for the word back
then. The best of times.
So he got money based on every word that he wrote. So he was paid for volume. But like Christmas Carol is a really short read.
Yeah,
definitely. When you're in that holiday spirit, you should read it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any holiday spirit, John, but I've watched Christmas Carol, like the first version, the black and white film of it way back. So I'm good on that, John. But yeah, I know the story. I've watched the black and white film. I watched Scrooge.
I was gonna say my girls watched the Muppet one with.
I was gonna say we always watch the Muppet one.
Yeah, nice.
There's a little love for Clock Stoppers happening again. I love that Ruben Guzman's bringing it up again. My mom will be very happy because her neighbor is the writer of Clock Stoppers, and I got to go to that set. So yes, Ruben, it's come up twice, and you're an Orange County guy, so you should know the writer of that movie lives near to where you live. So there you go.
Isn't that kind of like saying, John, you live in Orange County? You're like, oh, the writer of a movie lives near me. Like,
as a kid, he was.
Doesn't everyone in Orange County write movies?
I live.
Right.
You either write movies or in movies or have some connection with movies. Come on, John.
I did.
There were a couple I was surprised, John, you left off. I don't know where you want to go with this, but
no, go ahead.
With the emotional ones, I know you're really into these time travel movies generally, but you really seemed like you really like the emotional time travel ones a lot. Yeah. And so when I was watching the replay of that one, there were a couple that weren't there, and I was like, I wonder why he didn't put these in there. So I'm just going to throw them out there, and I would hear, John, what you have to say or other people. But It's a Wonderful Life, to me, is one of the most emotionally heartstring-tugging time travel movies, especially if you think Christmas Carol is similar vein. And you got the holiday spirit, apparently, so there you go. That actually goes with that. And the other one is Time Traveler's Wife. I don't know if you've seen that. That is a very emotional one, and that's at top of the list for emotional time travel movies. So I didn't see those on the list. I was curious what your thoughts on those.
It's a Wonderful Life has almost always been in the top 5 of my all-time favorite movies. I really do love. I'm a Capra fan and a James Stewart fan, so it hits those notes for me. And it's certainly a dimensional travel film. I mean, he legitimately and then you get to see his whole life in retrospect. In that way, the audience travels in time with the story as the angel learns. But I didn't disqualify it. I just qualified others as being more time travel than that one. Time Traveler's Wife is a good movie. I just like those other ones better, but it's a very good movie. If people haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it.
It's more subtle because I think mainly because of the main actor, Eric Bana, he's not given to wild, sweeping emotional scenes very well. He's more of a subtlety in his acting, and so there's not these overwhelming, hyper emotional scenes but it's very touching, especially when he goes back in time. He doesn't know when it's going to happen or where he's going to go, but he goes back and meets this little girl and has a friendship with her, and it's his wife in the future. And it's done so well, and it's so realistic, and it's a very touching movie. And I loved watching those replays because I'm like, no, what about this one? Oh, where's this one? Like, I want to go back in time and be on those and like put other ones in those categories. So,
but this is what I love about why we do. I think this is one of the reasons John and we decided we wanted to have this type of show after we get done with the topic, because obviously there's so many things out there that we can't watch, or we've watched, or we forget about. Like, I am upset at myself that I did not even consider It's a Wonderful Life as is it a time travel movie? Because it is one of my favorite movies up there. And like, not even just Christmas movie, but like, I mean, corns. Like, it's such a, it's such a great movie.
You go back in time to see what it would be like if he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's going back into his time. He's going back into the town's time with the condition that everything runs as it will, but the only difference is he's not there. And the whole place is after without him. So it's, yeah.
Which is funny. You guys have brought up Time Traveler's Wife. We brought up About Time. We brought up a Midnight in Paris. And I'm blanking on one. She's in another one. But Rachel McAdams has been a female lead in like 4 time travel movies, and she never gets to time travel.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's in what's the other? She's in another one. I think we talked about it.
That's hilarious.
She doesn't get a time travel in Midnight in Paris. She misses it. She doesn't get to in About Time. She doesn't get to in time. She's in
About Time. She's not either.
Let me know.
Is this like Sean Bean? He just has to die in a movie. She doesn't get the time travel.
She just does. She's like, hey, you want to be in a time travel movie? Awesome. Cool. You don't get a time travel, but you're in it.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I do enjoy when it seems like 90% of time travel movies, it's about time travel and love. And it's hard to find time travel movies that don't involve a romantic aspect. So that's such a wide area of this genre is time travel movies with romance. There's so many of them out there.
And we ultimately we changed the name for that category to emotional because it was like, there's so many movies about spending time with your dad. I mean, isn't Field of Dreams in some way a time travel movie in the same genre that like you're spending time with the dad you never got to know and play catch again, even though he's gone? There's some of that. I think I feel like if a time travel movie doesn't have a nugget of I missed out on something and I want to recapture it, then I think it's doing something wrong. You know?
How about Frequency with Dennis Quaid? How about that movie? Man, I love that movie, man.
Yeah, that's another one. I love that movie, and and then I know people in the chat are going to tell me and are going to say that's not time travel. They're just 2 people talking across time. But the one guy in the present, essentially talking guy in the past, he has him do things which change his present because he's like, well, write this down and go hide it there. And then he opens the cabinet and it's there. Or he gives him information that the guy acts on and it changes. So I think he's not physically traveling through time, but he is acting on the past in a way that you could only do if you were traveling to the past. Now his actions and his words can travel to the past. He is able to affect the past without physically traveling there. But he is sending his actions and his words back in time.
Well, and they affect time.
I think it counts.
And they affect time. That's why I picked it as my sentimental pick. I think it was reaction to the first. But that's why, right? Like, I mean, they go back in time. Well, they don't go back, but they mess with stuff with time that, like, his mother passes, the mother passes away in that stream early on because of stuff that they did to change other aspects. And then they have to go back and rechange those aspects. So if you can. So I think it's the same concept that you're talking about, right? Like you said, like if the person physically changes time, it's a time travel movie. The same time, if you can mess with things and affect the outcome of stuff through time, I think that has to qualify to some degree.
Yeah, I think that counts.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
So-
that movie is extra rewarding because you actually get to see that in real time, like a change is made in the past, and you see it right at the same time because you get to see both. Like you said, he hides something in this place, then he's talking to him, he goes and grabs it from the same place. You get to see that in real time, and it's like, wow, it is mind blowing. It's like, man, that would be so freaking awesome if you're talking to somebody in the past and you just go and, oh, there it is, like.
Yeah, and one of those, there's a movie that uses that same concept, and it's one particular part. You guys will all know this. That is one of the most striking scenes of all time travel movies. It's so dark and it's just so off-putting, and I just freaking love it. Is that part in Looper where the guy looks on his arm and there's the address, and he has to go there, and his leg falls off and his arms fall off, and he finally opens the door. And it's his younger self they've been torturing. And every time they torture and harm him, it has the effect all the way through time up to his present self. And it's so creepy.
Horrifying.
Is it realistic? I don't know, but it's badass.
Right. Well, that's like the doctor's like cutting off stuff and soldering, like right there. Before I forget, John, because someone mentioned this in the chat, and I'd be remiss if we didn't. And this was long time ago, so you're gonna not be able to find it.
Go back and find it.
Maybe you can. I don't want to doubt your hosting skills here. What are your guys' thoughts on Masters of the Universe?
I mean, obviously, it's
I think it was Mr. Gretzky that said Masters of the Universe.
I don't know enough about the Masters of the Universe, admittedly, to respond to that.
Same.
For me, it's an 80s cartoon that I remember watching as a kid, and now I'm blanking on the time travel.
They basically did, yeah. They
did the live action with Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren, it's like a dimension.
Mandela.
They travel from Lundgren's He-Man universe to our universe. But I mean, yeah.
An alternate universe. Well, because DS said alternate universe kind of aspect.
No, but
That's why I
it's
thought about
definitely
it.
alternate dimensional kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that happens, it affects the outcome of things that had happened in the past in their dimension. So
I mean, it's like the multiverse is sort of a time travel related concept because it's sort of like all the possibilities at every instant are all occurring, and they're all creating these branches in these trees. And if you go back and change one, you can alter that branch. And the one thing I hate about time travel movies, I'll be honest, is they always treat us like we're dumb, and they have a character in there as part of the story. Pick up the paper and draw the line with the Sharpie, and then go back and draw the river branch. We know, we get it. It's 2020. Everybody gets time travel, even if you're, you know what I mean? I don't need a character to get a piece of paper and draw it on a Sharpie. Like,
Well, how about this?
but if it affects the branches, I think it's time travel because you're affecting the traveling of time on those various rivers and branches.
Because I felt like when Greg and I first started talking time travel, I felt like there were really just two categories to deal with here. And Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the two categories for me were you can change time and you can't change time. Like the one that is there's a loop and everything you were going to do, you're going to do anyways. There's no way out of it. When you travel back in time, you were always going to travel back in time. There's no way to avoid that possibility, and you can't change anything. It was always going to happen the same way, that butterfly effect kind of version. Versus the alternative, the Back to the Future version, which is you can change time. There are infinite possibilities, and every time you do a little something, it's that one little step that dramatically changes the rest of mankind. Chris, do you feel like you are more interested in one form of time travel than the other, or that you believe more in one or the other?
I would think that the more realistic way to look at it would be if I go back, I should be able to change things, right? I should be able to go in there and everything's just happening as it is. You're placed into that point in time. I don't know all the science. I'm sure DS will tell us the science on this, but I mean, if I go there, I should be able to alter things. And if I do alter things, that is obviously going to have repercussions in the future. So I think that line of thinking is more accurate and correct, and it's the one that I'm attracted to the most. I would hate to go back and then not be able to to
right.
adjusting.
It's the most hopeful, right? Like one of them seems clearly more hopeful versus the other version that seems like hopeless. Like you just have to suck it up and deal with it. What do you think, Dia?
I like both, and I think they're both realistic, depending on how you're looking at it. If, like I'm saying, with the multiverse, if you go back and you are able to change things, then the one you're going forward to is not the same branch that you were on. Like you can stay on that branch, but it's sort of altered. So if the original one is either erased and you're on a new one. So if you go back and change things, and then when you go forward, you're not going forward on the same highway. You're going on a different highway to a different destination now. You've created an entirely new path. But I think you could create a new path. If you go back and change things, you've changed the whole path. The other path may cease to exist, like they talk about in Deja Vu. But I like when it's well done in a movie, where you, no matter what you do, that is why things are the way you were. And the classic example of that one is Time Crimes. That's my favorite of that part, because that guy goes back in time to change something, and he realizes he's the one that was doing what he went back to change. So he goes back in time again to change it, and he ends up being 4 or 5 of him running around this place, and it ends up that at the end he sort of realizes it's all just him and everything is fine, and he knows what's going to happen because he knows what all the previous ones of him did, but he hasn't changed a thing, and it wraps up very nicely. And that's sort of being stuck on the same line, and you go back and you just are stuck on that line. You can never get off it no matter what you do. That's already been done. The thing paradoxical about that is if you're born and living into a world where stuff has happened because you went back in time to do it, how did you go back in time before you were born to do it? You know what I mean? So, but it's cool with all these paradoxes. I like both. Just depends how it's done, I guess.
Carlito's like trying to explain it, then he just stopped. He's like, never mind. I'll let DF do it. He's doing it.
Well, I mean, and there's not like, and that's what's so fun about it. There's not like a scientific, they're right or they're wrong. It's just, it could be any of them, you know what I mean? It's just how you interpret it. And
I remember a drama teacher telling me that, like, you know, dramas have to end with a funeral and comedies end with a marriage. For me, it's kind of like hopeful time travel movies allow you to have change, and darker time travel movies say you're stuck in this wheel and it's just going round and crushing you underneath it, the yoke of time. Greg, do you have like a thought on any of that?
I mean, for me, which is weird because like I feel like I'm the most like hopeful person. Like is like, man, yeah, I have the, you know, I give people like the benefit of the doubt. Like, yeah, they're fine. Like they're a good person. Like, yeah, go for it. I like my time travel movies to be dark. Like I like my time travel movies to be like, listen, there's no right or wrong answer. There's no clear cut. Like that's why like the story for me of Donnie Darko is an attractive story, right? Like where you get into the idea of, yeah, he could go back and make some changes in that timeline, and some of them were for good and some of them were for bad. And okay, but if he doesn't do it, then some good stuff happens and some bad stuff happens. And so like I like that. For me, that's what I like about a time travel movie. Well, I'll say this. It has to be like for a serious movie, but then I'm fine with comedy. Take it wherever you want to go if it's a comedy. But if you're trying to get me invested into a story aspect of a time travel, like, you know, a believability even of some sort of, I want that conundrum. I want that kind of like that tension to live in of, you know, is this right? Is this wrong? I like living in that gray when it comes to my movies where it's not like with DS, I think you said it at one point, you go, I don't need them to write out a map and tell me, like, I'm not dumb. Like, I also don't want to necessarily all the time have someone tell me how the movie is right. Like, it ends this way or it doesn't end this way. Like, I like that I can talk about Donnie Darko and have a conversation about it with people. And for me, the ending is completely different, my interpretation of the ending, than someone else's ending. And I think that's something we're going to talk about with some other things coming up next couple weeks that I'm excited about too. But
yeah, I will say when the two different types, the ones that can go back and change things, I'm excited to see how effed up and different and like what problems, especially on dark ones like Butterfly Effect. he changes stuff, and I'm like, oh, what's going to happen now? This is going to be effed up. I know it. And it is. I mean, that movie is pretty dark, honestly. That's a dark movie.
It is.
Oh,
I
And then you have one
did a good job with that one.
Yeah, I know. And then the other type where everything comes together, you never really changed anything. I'm interested to see, I want the surprise, like, well, they already did this, they're not changing the future. How are they going to tie it together? And it's like Terminator. That is like, oh, of course, they have the kid that becomes John Connor, and he sent his father. You know what I mean? They didn't change anything, but it's surprising and interesting and clever how they tie it all together. And that movie's super dark. So yeah, I mean, I'm always up for dark, but there's both types that are dark. But yeah, I mean, it's just the two are different. But I think that's a good way, John, to sort of divide them for the most part, I think.
Well, in the end, we split them up even more. But like, yeah, Chris, you wanted to, I think you were like chomping to say something there about this.
No, have you guys read the comic Man Who Effed Up Time?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, that's fun, man. You have Bearded, and it's the same concept, right? Like he goes back, he changed. You know, when things get changed. I mean, it royally screws up history. It screws up his life, and just little changes, right? And every time he goes back to adjust it seems like it just makes things worse, right? And I love that. I love that concept, right? Again, of going back, you make a change and then it adjusts things. And then I was thinking, as you guys were talking, I was thinking about, butterfly effect. And it seems like every time he makes a change, things just get worse and darker. Yeah. And it's like, no matter what I do, like, there's just no hope. So yeah, I guess the more I think of it, I do enjoy both types of those type of time travel movies.
Yeah, there were two different endings for Butterfly Effect. I don't know if people are aware. Yeah. There's the theatrical release, which they toned down because the end was way too dark for people, so they didn't even do it. The director's cut has the original, or if you buy the DVD back in the day, it has that on there. And I can't remember what the theatrical ending was, but I don't know if I should spoil it. John's like intrigued, like, what am I missing?
I think I saw the director's cut because I'm willing to spoil it, and you can tell me which version it is. The version I remember watching is like he travels all the way back to the womb and basically commits suicide in the womb.
Yeah. I think that's the director cut version, and then the theatrical version I think had a different ending that was.
Like, I always used it as the high water mark as like dark time travel is. Yeah. He goes back to being a baby and basically ends it. And I was like, okay, whoa, this movie is dark.
But isn't that just a darker version of It's a Wonderful Life?
It sort of is, yeah. I mean,
I want to highlight this Brian comment. What do we want? Time travel. When do we want it? It's irrelevant.
Hey,
I saw that quote and it reminded me of that part in Spaceballs when they're like, what are we watching? We're watching now. When is this happening?
Now. Yeah.
John,
when will then be now?
So Chris brought up a comic, The Man Who Effed Up Time.
Yeah.
I got a pack the other day and I got a double in it. So I'm going to do a giveaway right now for a time travel #1 issue of The Man Against Time. The question is, how do we do the giveaway to the 12 people in the chat? What do we want them to do to get this copy? I have a copy.
I have to come up with a question or something.
I don't know. What do we do, gang? This is for everybody.
They need to tell us the answer before we ask the question. Guaranteed for that right there.
Holy crap. This is impossible.
I know, right?
Can they name the 5 categories of time travel that you and I chose for our show?
Okay. First person that can name the 5. That means they watched our show. Yep. First person that can name the 5
categories.
I'll send you a number.
Look at DS. He's like, I'm going to go and watch all the channel. I'm going to watch.
I'll send you a #1 of The Man Who Effed Up Time.
Not sure I hit that mute button in time.
Yeah, I took some notes here though on some time travel movies I don't think people have seen. I'll throw them out at some point.
Go for it.
No, we'd love to at the end. So if you want to mention some of those books, those films that we might have missed, go ahead.
All right. So one is called 11 Minutes Ago. It's very obscure. It's an independent film, very low budget.
I don't think I saw that one.
It might be on Amazon Prime, I think, but it's called 11 Minutes Ago. And this is one of the most creative time travel movies ever. And without spoiling it totally, but I know we're doing spoilers on the show, so if anybody doesn't want spoilers, tune out now. But 11 minutes ago, this guy who invents the time machine spends like 18 months of time going back in time. So for 18 months, what he does is he continually goes back in time like 10 or 12 times during that 18 months. And he goes back to a party. And each time he goes back, he's going back further and further. So the first time he goes back is at the end of their party. And then the second time he goes back, chronologically for him, his second time predates he goes back 11 minutes before that. And then the third time he goes is 11 minutes before that. So by the end, when he goes back, he's been going back in time 10 or 12 times. So he's getting good at it. And the last time he goes back is at the beginning of the party. So So the first time he goes back in time is at the end of their party. They've seen him 11 or 12 times already on their timeline. You know what I mean? He's been showing up throughout the party.
Right.
So the very first time he goes back, they all know all about him. And he's like, what are you talking about? How do you know? I've never met any of you. They know everything about him. And he's bewildered. Because every time he goes back, they lose more and more knowledge and memories of him until finally he goes back on his last trip. And they've never heard anything about them, and they don't know who he is. And it's like,
that's cool.
It's mind-bending, and it's really cool, and it's to meet a girl, and he loses her more and more because he meets her when she already knows him, and they're good, and he loses her as he goes because the last time he goes back, she has never met him yet. It's a really cool movie. No special effects, just well written.
Shout out to Greg. He made me watch Safety Not Guaranteed, and I really enjoyed it. So that's a
really good movie.
There's the book. Yeah,
there's the book. If someone, I don't have to give it away, but if someone in the chat can just name our 5 categories, you get it.
Name our 5 time travel categories before the show ends, and first person gets a free comic book. So
there you go.
Did you guys ever watch the show Early Edition?
Yeah.
That show?
No.
So that was the guy. The lead wasn't the lead in that the same Friday Night Lights actor.
It was Kyle Chandler. Yep.
And he gets a newspaper a day in advance, right?
Yep. He gets tomorrow's newspaper. Yeah.
He gets tomorrow's paper today, and then he can go and make change. I guess would that be considered?
Definitely. It was like the small town version of Quantum Leap, where he was able to fix little things in his neighborhood, but not change. He didn't realize how his little changes would help the world at large, but he could make small changes. I loved that show. That was a really good show.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another one. I don't know if you guys.
It's very similar concept to like what was a movie with Greg Kinnear, Dear God, where it's like writing letters trying to fix. It's a different concept, but it's that same type of thing of like if you had the ability to do good in someone's life, because like if you knew something bad was going to happen, what would you do? Would you do something to prevent it? So we haven't even talked about this as sci-fi, and I'm just thinking of that made me think of it. What about Minority Report?
Ooh. I mentioned that to John.
Is it time travel?
He didn't pass that information along to me, DS. So next time we talk time travel movies,
I told him it was time travel because he said, "What about cryo?" And we started talking about it, and I said, "Well, Minority Report, they're not physically traveling in time, but they're able to see the future. Their sight is traveling to the future, but not their body. So they are time traveling with one of
and they're affecting the future and changing the future."
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. How can you arrest somebody for something they haven't done? Well, you know they're going to do it. And then, of course, there's that Minority Report from one of the 3 that sometimes exists. And it's, I think that's definitely a time travel movie. That's a real cool one, too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
How about one like Extraction? Have you guys seen Extraction?
I think I've heard of it, but I don't think I saw it.
This is one where a guy creates a device which allows him to go into the mind of somebody and navigate their memories. And it's sort of used to go into a criminal's mind to see if they really, like a criminal who's catatonic or is in a coma, you can go into their mind, view their memories, and see if they actually did it to get a conviction. Well, he goes into this one guy's mind, and the machine crashes, and he gets stuck in there. Now, this guy is, he can remember things, and as he's remembering him, the guy who's in his brain is now in those memories. So he's running around inside this guy's past memories, navigating it, and the guy can interact with him if he thinks about those memories, and he's like going into the guy's past, and is that time travel? I mean, he's living the guy's past in his mind, in his memories. You know what I mean? He's not really traveling anywhere, but he's traveling the memories. So I don't know. I mean, that's one.
No, I mean, it's definitely on the same level as like a Minority Report, right?
So I just want to, highlight Gore, because the time Gore suggests, hey, have you guys seen this not token film that everyone's seen? I can actually say I have, and that makes me feel like legitimized a little bit with my film knowledge. But it is a great movie, and the movie I just checked because I wanted to double check. It is actually on Hulu right now as well. So maybe if it's not on your Hulu, it's on it's on cable. So you should.
Which one?
Cashback. What Gore, pull up Gore's, because Gore has a great. It's basically describes what it is.
He says it's about a guy who develops insomnia after breaking up with his girlfriend, and somehow then develops the ability to stop time.
It's a unique take on what we're talking about here, and I think it, like what Gore says, the ending is it's a beautiful thing.
What's the one with Ben Affleck?
Paycheck.
I don't know.
Someone commented that on the comments of our video after they're watching the rewind.
You know, I think Paycheck is a really cool movie, and most people think it sucks. I think it's really cool, and it's interesting when he has all those little items, and you're like, "Ooh, what are these items for?" And they're so mundane, and you look for the opportunity that's going to come up for him to use one of those items, and it's just so interesting and surprising to see how he's going to use those. I think that's a really cool movie.
You were saying
it was enjoyable. I have no issue with it.
Yeah, I like it.
Chris was like, I was going to mention that one, right? Well, I honestly, I don't remember Paycheck well enough. What are you remembering from that one?
Yeah, Paycheck. I'm remembering the same thing like DS, where he would he'd place things in a certain time. He'd come back and get those items later on because he knew he had to. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he had to get those to. Man, I'm trying to remember the ending of it. But he's stopping it's like a organization, right? That hired him. Yeah.
Yep. So
super cool movie.
He's a guy who basically he's an engineer. Ben Affleck plays like an engineer who has to create like technology for this company. But the catch was like, you're going to get like 8,000 years, but like $8,000. But what we're going to do is we're going to wipe your memory. So you're going to miss, like, you're probably going to work for us in a secluded facility for like 4 years. We're going to wipe your memory. You're going to think you walk into the building, you walk out, you don't know. So like oh, okay, I'm going to do this. He has like the Boston Red Sox World Series all recorded and stuff so you could watch it afterwards. And he knows that he's going to lose this 4 years. He knows he's not going to remember anything because of like trying to keep copyright laws of like, they don't want someone to be able to know like how to build this hologram thing that he's building or whatever it is.
Well, he's building a time machine. He's building a time machine, which he realizes, he has no memory of it, but he realizes at some point that he must have created a time machine for them, and he used it to look forward into time and gather up devices that would help save him, knowing at the time he's building it that they're going to wipe his memory and screw him. He used the time machine that he engineered to make little clues for his memoryless self later on. So it's like two different people, and it's him. Yeah. He's
I gotta watch this movie.
He can see into the future.
He doesn't even remember what his girlfriend looks like.
Yeah, he can see into the future, and basically, like, he sends himself an envelope to say, like, you're gonna need a thumbtack at this point. Like, it's if time travel and MacGyver made a baby. Because you're like, what is he going to do with this? But it's Ben Affleck, it's Uma Thurman, Aaron Eckhart is in it. I
remember seeing the trailer.
It's an enjoyable. I don't say like it's a great movie. It's an enjoyable movie for me.
Yeah, right. That's
no problem revisiting it.
And then there's a movie called Run Lola Run.
I was gonna mention Run Lola, but actually I wanted to mention too the Quantum Leap Lee Harvey Oswald episode is a powerful 2-3 parter where he keeps jumping into Lee's life and he's trying to stop him from committing the crime. But like, yeah, that's a great one, Todd. I'm glad you brought that one up. But yeah, Run Lola Run. That's a is it a time travel movie that I think definitely deserves discussion.
It feels like they are just sort of playing this short movie and changing something for our benefit to see how it's different. And they just change the smallest things. So the characters aren't traveling back in time. They're just replaying it for us. Or are they traveling back in time by some, omniscient God that's making them and they don't have any memory? Like it's literally rewinding them and then something different happens. So each time they run through these events, it's slightly different. So it's enjoyable to watch, but the characters arguably aren't traveling in time unless we just think they're being restarted all the time. They don't know it. So I don't know, but that's a cool indie film from way back. And both the guy and the girl stars in that went on to big roles, and they were at that time. It's a German film. They're both German. I think the girl went on to be the girlfriend in the Bourne Supremacy.
In the Bourne films, yeah.
Yeah, and that other guy, and it ended up being, I've seen him in a lot of big stuff since, and he still looks exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a fun indie, and I was going to recommend. I know Gore's a big. You were mentioning how much you love 12 Monkeys DS, and I had seen that film and loved it, and then went to college, and I had a professor who forced us to watch the French film that was the inspiration for 12 Monkeys, and it's like basically watching a slideshow because it's all still photographs. The whole film is not done with motion pictures; it's stills and then audio recording. And Greg said it's on YouTube, so you can watch.
I think someone commented this on YouTube. I still have it on my list. I need to watch. What, Le Jet?
It's called Le Jet. It's a French film, so it's all subtitled. But it was a real mind-blowing experience to see 12 Monkeys done in like 30 minutes with still photographs. It's a wild, wild ride.
There was a time travel movie that was only on YouTube. It's about a hotel. Can't remember the name of it. It's a movie that was only on YouTube, and I think it's still on YouTube, and it's about a guy who finds a time machine in the floor of a hotel room, and he goes back and he goes through that every time to go back in time. I can't remember the name of it though. It's called like Room 27 or something.
Is it a show? Is it one of the YouTube TV series, or is it actually a movie?
No, it's an actual movie, and it was released on YouTube. It's not anywhere else. So if you're not watching movies on YouTube, which who does? Nobody does. I came across it. It's only on YouTube. It may have since branched out. I watched it a few years ago, but I can't remember the name. Room 27 or Room 44 or something. So frustrating. I'm old. I can't remember these things, man.
Hey, no, you've done really well. Both Chris and DS, you guys have remembered a ton of stuff that we never really got to. So a huge appreciation. And we should probably wind it down. We've been going an hour and a half, but I wanted to give any time. Is there anything that you feel like a movie that we haven't talked about? I mean, we didn't talk about any of the Terminator movies. We didn't talk about a ton of like great films that we because there's just so many. Is there any that are on your list as like some of your favorites that you feel like maybe you didn't get a chance to talk about? Chris, is there anything on your list that's a favorite for you?
Well, you mentioned Terminator. That's definitely on there. Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is another definitely on my favorite list.
Original or the new?
The original. Yeah, the original. Man.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I remember watching the original, with my family, man, and even as a kid, man, like I think I must have been like 8 years old watching that movie, and I remember just thinking like it messed with my mind so much. I was so confused, but and it made me want to keep rewatching it again. The nostalgia that goes with that film. But those are definitely Terminator. I mentioned Back to the Future already, but Planet of the Apes, man, that's definitely on my list.
And definitely the original, because nothing beats a good Charlton Heston freak out.
Yeah,
nothing beats that. Whether in any of his movies, Soylent Green, I think he's in that. And he has a couple good freak outs, but any Charlton Heston freak out is quality. And when he's freaking out in that movie, it's.
Well, I remember as a kid too, being super excited when I realized that you could almost take all the original films and start at any point and watch all the way in. It's a time loop when you put all the movies together as one group. I was like, damn, whoever like did the last few films kind of connected the bridge together.
Yeah.
They're not all like gold, but like you put them together and it's just such a cool.
Yeah, that first one though that's a phenomenal classic movie. That's a great one. Yeah, good pick, Chris. I love that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And what about you, DS? I mean, you had a whole list there. You ran us through. Is there anything you didn't get a chance to mention yet?
Well, I saved one hoping you would do this at the end, so I saved one. I'm going to type it in the chat, and it is quirky and weird, and it's just so cool. And it's called Lunopolis, and it's about how do I describe it? A sort of cult scientific organization based on maybe on the moon that has created time travel, and I'll just leave it at that. And it's sort of like not a found footage. It's sort of made as a group of three guys with cameras going out to investigate, and they get pulled into this whole conspiracy thing, and it just leads down this weird rabbit hole for them. But it's realistic. It's almost like a found footage, and it's got some effects, and it ends up being a time travel movie, and it's really cool. It's really cool. And nobody's ever heard of it or seen it, and it's different. It's not like your typical, it's not low budget, but it's like a found footage, almost like a found footage documentary film. Like if you've watched The Creep, it's that style where you're filming it. It's like that. It's cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And nobody's ever seen it. So I always tell people who like time travel movies, check out Lunopolis.
Thanks, man. That's a great one. It seems like
it's on Netflix, actually.
It's on Netflix, you think?
I think so.
How about now, Greg? We've talked about time travel for weeks now. Is there anything left that you haven't said that you feel like you want to bring up at this point?
Man, no, because I said at the start of the show, watch Palm Springs if you guys haven't seen it on Hulu. Again, if you enjoy a Groundhog's Day style movie, but completely different. Like, don't go in comparing it. Just go in with it's in that same kind of like
stuck in time theory.
Loop concept. I think it's a great fresh take. I was thoroughly impressed. I'm glad I watched it. I think it has heart. It's funny. It's entertaining. So if you guys have not watched Palm Springs, find a way to watch it. And then if you do, let us know, because I want to talk more about it.
Is that the one that's also on Shudder?
Yes. That's what I think someone said.
We're broken up.
Yeah, you're broken up with Hulu. I think Carlito said it's on Shudder.
Yeah, cool.
So find a way to watch it. I enjoyed it. So that's mine. What about you, John? Any last time travel?
I'm still pumped the chat was bringing up TV shows, because Quantum Leap would be the one that I would bring up. I know Lost. I'm a huge Lost head, so watching the little ways in which Lost set up time travel as a huge part of that show. And I do, like most of you, appreciate the fact that you can't change things, that it's gonna end up the way it was, but that you have to live through it. You have to experience it. It's part of the journey. And watching those characters go through what they have to go through to get to the other side, I enjoy all of that. The story of John Locke on that show is definitely one of time travel where, he has a tragic ending, but the journey he goes through only works because of his skipping through time and all that kind of stuff. It makes it more meaningful for me. But I was going to actually use our time to instead just talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing for the month of October. So we have given up on deciding. We're not going to talk Halloween and horror. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's talking it. We're going to go a different direction. And Greg and I have decided we're going to talk crime movies.
Nice.
We're gonna break down crime movies in a myriad of different ways. Specifically, next week we're talking about gangsters, organized crime, and we're going to talk about serial killers. We're going to talk about serial crime. And that's going to be our first week. And then later on, we'll get into some heist crimes. We'll get into some fun white collar. Is it a crime? And we'll look at drugs and drug-related crime.
let's just say it's going to be jam packed. I'm excited. Guys,
well, I freaking love heist films too, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like crime movies, especially heist films. Love heist films.
Heist. I mean, we're really worried because there's so many.
Yeah.
Ultimately, isn't Raiders of the Lost Ark a heist movie? I mean, if you really want to look at it, there's so many heist movies.
Yeah.
John, try and refilter through some of our movies that we've talked
Again,
about.
Time Bandits is going to make its way back in.
I mean, Time Bandits is a heist film, right? They steal the map so they can go steal everything else.
Great. We're not going to talk about it though.
I think you're going to have to pick stuff that's primarily heist because there's so many heists.
No, I'm not going to work in the fringe heist movies. We're going to go like classic heist films for sure. So many great heist films. I agree. That's the category that, I mean, we got organized crime down pretty quick. We got serial killers down pretty quick.
Those were we locked down. So next Saturday. This is the most prepared gang we have ever been for a show. We had this locked down a week ago. Like we got off chat. We locked down our picks Sunday night. Now we're gonna hopefully lock down our other ones soon, just so we know. But I mean, organized crime. I mean,
there's some gems.
And then we're talking about psychopath serial killer movies,
which is honestly one of my favorite subgenres just in general. I love a good true crime related hunting the serial killer story.
I'm excited about this category. I think more so than even time travel, because we broke up time travel, I feel, into 4 categories, and even more so than sports. This is going to be one of those, each subcategory of crimes is going to be one of those categories where people go, yeah, but what about this? I feel we're going to leave so many movies off of organized crime and of serial killer crimes, definitely off of heist crimes. I think even drug crimes. Like, there's going to be so many that people are going to.
We could have had a Scorsese list, basically.
Yeah, you could just use Scorsese for it, or just pick an actor, De Niro. Just pick De Niro movies or something. But
I was legitimately watching a Pacino De Niro film for 3 hours today. So I'll let the chat try to figure out which one that was.
Well, it's all of them, John. That doesn't narrow it down.
TJ says Ocean's the original. That's a hot take, my good friend. That's a hot take.
I'll tell you, your guys you've gone from time travel movies, which we're talking about them. So we're like, there's so many time travel movies compared to if you graphed it like a pie chart. Compared to crime movies, it would be like all yellow and this little blue sliver of time travel movies, and the rest would be crime. It's like a million times more crime movies than there are time travel movies because I feel like a lot of actors and directors and writers.
And Gore brings up a great point right here. Like even the 30s and 40s alone, some of those that we're talking about, we looked at crime categories so much. We were talking about, do we do film noir movies? Do we talk about movies like The Maltese Falcon? Do we talk about detective movies like French Connection, like movies, Chinatown, like movies that aren't as like, that are like crime movies or detective based? Like, so there's so many different routes. So I'm excited to talk about this, and I'm excited because I feel like the chat is going to come, and I think they're going to come guns blazing for us, John. To say, how are you guys not talking about this? I know TJ and Gore have been a little calm with. I think they brought down like, how have you guys not talked about time after time? But besides that, I feel like we've navigated time travel well. I think we're going to get lit up.
We're going to get lit. Yeah, we're going to get fired off. That's for sure. And there's some great things going on in the chat. Now, Carlito, I was hopeful that you would join us when we do the wrap-up of crime. If you're free, we would love to have you. I know you and I have talked mobster movies to the ends of time before, just in overall chat time. So would love to have you join us. Gore Vidal's already listing movies for us that he expects to see. I want to remind everybody that the DS channel and the Lost in Comics channel, I linked them down below in the description. So you should definitely go over there, sub up these guys, because I just can't thank you guys enough for coming and joining us to talk about this.
It's been so much fun. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I'm so glad I finally got to talk with you, John, especially because we've talked about time travel. But both of you guys on the bottom there too. Man, this has just been a blast talking time travel movies with you guys. Love it.
Yeah, guys, same here, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I don't consider myself a movie buff in any way, but definitely this genre definitely attracts me. Man, I'd love to get on and talk comics with you guys sometime. But just thank you again for having me.
Oh yeah, there's comics. I totally forgot about comics. It's like the first 2 hours in the last 5 years I haven't thought about comics. Awesome.
Everyone that gets on this, we know each other because we're a comic community, and we're all just talking about movies, and we're trying to find a little bit of that love for other genres that we all have of others that aren't just comics, because we love comics, but everyone talks about comic book movies. Everyone talks about who's your favorite superhero, and so we're trying to have something that can engage people, because people like movies. So we're glad so make sure you guys sub up everyone on the panel.
I was gonna say we also need to sub up the Bearded Comic Bro, because his channel is linked down below. He is closing in on 400 subscribers.
I'm getting close. I'm slowly
doing it.
He's gonna be there soon, and soon we're gonna start splitting the time here. Host some of these over on the Bearded Comic Bro channel, because he has been a huge part of what makes this a fun thing for me to do.
Yeah.
So thank you, man.
Yeah. No. Do you guys? I guess we wrap up, do you guys have anything you guys want to promote real quick that people can see on your show? What you got coming up this week?
No, I don't promote stuff. So here we go.
All right,
Dude, check him out on Tuesdays on the Comic Core on Golden Guys, though, for sure.
So promote that. See, that's good. That works.
Tuesday night, 10 p.m. on the Comic Core. Golden Guys, all Golden Age comics. I'm not a shout out guy. I'm not a promoter guy. I'm just like a content substance. I don't do all this other stuff. I don't even have an intro on my channel. I don't whatever. But yeah, Comic Core, and then Monday night is the No Faces chat on Bub's Comics channel at 8:30 Eastern. No. Is it 8:30 Eastern? 8 Eastern. No, 8:30 Eastern, yeah.
And it's 8:30.
Oh, he doesn't see this. He's going to be pissed I forgot the time.
He won't ever watch. He never watches.
He's never been on the show, so you're fine. He won't know.
Yeah, 8:30 Eastern on Monday. Bub's Comics.
Thanks, Grandmaster. He's subbing up everybody who hasn't already subbed, so very appreciative. So was it Godfather or the Heat that I was watching today? I was watching Heat today, so you called it. It was Heat. What about you, Chris? What do you want to share for you and Oscar, man?
Well, I just want to say first off that I'm a little disappointed that nobody got that book right there, Bearded, because that is a great comic book.
Yeah,
Man Who Left That Time. You got Carl Mostert on the artist on that book too, man. That's a beautiful book.
Here's Chris. I'll literally, gang, if you really want a free comic book, literally just go back and Google it. I don't care who you are, and leave a comment on this video when it goes live. And you'll still get it. First person that puts it up, you'll get it. Like it's there. If you don't want it, I'll keep it. That's fine. But
sorry, I guess for me, man, we have a channel called Lost in Comics. It's me and my buddy Oscar. We do a weekly show on Thursdays, usually at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and we get lost in comics. That's our thing, man. We have something for everybody. We have interviews, creator interviews. We've had some really good talent on there. We've had Mike Diodato Jr. Carl Mostert is a guy we've had on there. We've had several independents lately. And we've done Lost in the Past, where we try to get lost in some Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age goodness, where we have a segment where we did do that. We did Action Comics #1 this past week.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
It's fun, man. We have a good time. We try to do something for everybody. I think a lot of shows, and not to call anybody out, but I think sometimes we can focus too much on the new stuff. We don't pay tribute to the old stuff. So we've been trying to do that lately. And again, it's all about having fun, man, getting lost in the books that we all love and this hobby that we all love and appreciate so much. So, come check us out, man.
I want to give a double. I know I've said it like privately in chats with Chris, but I'm not trying not to get emotional, but like seeing you at Edwin's service. So Chris was there. He was a representative of the comic book community at Edwin's service. He spoke at Edwin's service, and it meant a huge amount to me. So that's a debt that will never go paid. So I thank you a million times for that. And then what I love about watching your show, the live stream you do with your friend Oscar, is seeing the jabroni scale every time you guys rate a comic, hearing Jabroni's voice and seeing his face. You guys keep his memory alive in a huge way. So Jabroni fans better be subscribed to the Lost in Comics channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John. I just real quick, just to follow up on that. I mean, Jabroni was such a huge part of who Oscar and I are on YouTube, and just an amazing. I mean, everybody knows, man, such an amazing guy, selfless. And when me and Oscar had like 50 subs, he gave us the time of day. We hung out, went to Half Price Books, and a guy that didn't have to do that, and he did that for us. And we pay tribute to him on every video. Like you said, the rating system that we have has his voice, and it's something that we'll never forget. I bought bourbon for him. You know, I don't usually even drink bourbon. So you know, like I said, and what I said at his funeral, man, I wish. When I got off the stage, I wish I could have said more, because I know how much he meant to this community, to you guys, and to us, you know. And so, like I said, his memory will always be alive forever, man.
I know there were so many of us watching live, and just all of us wishing we could go up there and say something, and you represented us in a huge way. And so I just can't say thank you enough.
And that's the whole reason. That's the whole reason I went up, man, because I wasn't gonna say anything, and I just kept thinking about all you guys. I was like, there's a ton of people watching this, and just to have one person represent all of us would mean a ton to not only the family but to you guys. So yeah, for sure, man, and we always carry that with us, for sure, man.
Thank you so much, man. Greg, do you have anything coming up that you wanted to mention before we log off here, man? I know he's dropping content a ton here.
So yeah, I'm trying to get to about 3 things a week. I will say I'm going to highlight something I just dropped. Friday night. So yeah, yesterday I dropped my interview I did with Don Hanfield and James Hake of the creators of the Mall.
I gotta get over there and watch that. You mentioned it to me, and I gotta watch it.
I did, and I was super excited. Don Hanfield, who's one of the writers, it's a book that they wrote for Scout. He owns a production company with Jeremy Renner. So this guy, and he wrote the TV show. He's a creator of the TV show Nightfall that was on History Channel that had Mark Hamill. He producer on The Founder, the Michael McDonald's story, Kill the Messenger with Jeremy Renner, which is a cool we're talking about those types of movies about journalism and stuff. So just that was kind of my first kind of foray. He's a comic creator, but he also is Hollywood movie. And they're like, oh, hey, we're going to talk about a comic with you. But they do a comic called The Mall, which it leads into what we're talking about next week, because it basically is if John Hughes and an 80 gangster movie had a baby, this is their comic. That's their love story for that comic. So,
and the variant covers for that run I have the Goodfellas one. It's great.
Yeah, they have Goodfellas. They basically have the John Hughes are the A covers, and the B covers are your Scarface, your style movies.
Yeah, the gangster. Yeah.
But it's just cool. Don Hanfield wrote a comic called The Rift, which was one of the Steven Spielberg, The Amazing Story series they did for Apple TV, the pilot. That is based off a comic. So it's cool when you get to talk about comics that were created that are in pop culture TV shows and stuff like that, that base shows off of it. So check that out. Every Monday I typically do unboxing videos. If that's your thing, cool. If not, it's just Mondays. You can click through it. That's fine. Then it's going to be creator interviews. I do game shows, and I'm creating more content with my wife, Mrs. Bearded, and it's gotten to the stage that she's even created an Instagram now. So we're it's fun that she wants to hop on and do things like this with me. So,
but does she really want to be called Mrs. Bearded? Because I don't know that any woman wants that.
She thinks it's funny because she's a graphic designer. She's in communication. So she's marketing. So she all understands the concept of, hey, it's a brand. It's a brand, so I'm going to market off the brand. Whether she likes it or not, she knows the concept. So But it's just fun getting to do stuff like that with her. So she's starting to post stuff of like kind of the behind the scenes, what it's like to live with a comic YouTuber who, this isn't her world. So, and what it means for us and our family and kids. So that's just fun. We're, it's just fun, something fun that we're doing. And we're looking at some stuff that's going to be comic related. I think we'll do stuff that isn't comic related for her as well, just for some fun videos and things. So if you just want to laugh and have some fun with us and read comics, come check out my channel, Bearded Comic Bro, Twitter, Instagram, everything. So. Yeah. And
again, the link to all three is down below. So thanks everybody in the chat for coming by and leaving comments to try to win the book. Thank you also to those people who are doing that in the replay. I've got a new edited video series I'm going to start to be dropping called The Pull List. I just dropped one Friday. I'm going to try to drop them on Thursdays in the future. Just whatever books I'm picking up for the future week. You can look into the future and get a glimpse at what's coming out and what I'm going to be picking up, and then tell me all the DC books that I should be picking up instead.
That's what I'm here for, John.
Right? I mean, that's mostly what it is. It's like stop reading X-Men books and start reading everything else. So thanks, guys, for coming by, and hope to see you again next Saturday talking about gangsters.
Yes.
Thank you.
Peace.